Good morning and welcome everyone. I am Mark Collins, the Interim Chief Executive of Poppyscotland, and I would like to thank you for tuning in to the launch of the Poppyscotland 2021 Manifesto. This is truly a historic moment for us, as it is the first time ever Poppyscotland has published a manifesto ahead of a Scottish Parliament election, outlining the policy changes that we believe need to be made here in Scotland in support of our armed forces community. Our manifesto is based on robust research and published evidence, but also draws on the feedback from our beneficiaries and the staff who work to support them. During this event, you will hear how it all starts with positive health and well-being, as well as feeling secure in a place that our armed forces community can call home. Once these basics are in place, our armed forces community can then start to think about developing their skills and finding employment to facilitate their ongoing positive contribution to society. The social security system must also be easily accessible for members of our armed forces community who require it. So let me now introduce Mark Mackenzie from BFBS, who has kindly narrated a Poppyscotland manifesto video for us.
They serve, they give, they sacrifice. For who? For us. The least we can now do is support them. Let us support our armed forces community. Poppyscotland has worked with governments and political parties to support and improve the lives of our armed forces community. However, we know from our experience of providing life-changing support and by listening to our beneficiaries and staff, there's still more to do. Marcia lives with her husband John in Kilmarnock, and they've used their experience and unique insights to engage with politicians and shape the development of Poppyscotland's policy and engagement work. Marcia says those in government and parliament should engage with and listen to our veterans and families because they're our representatives and they need our input to make the right changes. That is why, over the course of the next Scottish Parliament, the Scottish Government should involve the armed forces community in Scotland in policy working groups to capture and consider the experiences of serving personnel, veterans and families. Alan was injured in service because of heavy lifting. He spent 18 months in agony before he could get the help he needed. He ended up in hospital, and although he got the help, it could have been faster and better. He didn't have the opportunity to provide feedback, which could have increased the likelihood of him receiving the specialist support he required. That is why, over the course of the next Scottish Parliament, the Scottish Government should introduce a Veterans Patient Satisfaction Survey to empower veterans to provide tailored feedback on the quality of specialist care they receive while acting on the results of the survey. Then there's Terry. Terry left the army and moved back in with his mum for 8 years until he secured a place of his own last year. He'd been on the waiting list for a long time, but the local authority didn't have a suitable property to offer him. There was a big backlog and he couldn't easily get hold of the council for the help he required. This is why, over the course of the next Scottish Parliament, the Scottish Government should establish a Veterans Housing Action Group with powers to review challenging cases, oversee effective implementation of Veterans Housing Pathway and act on any recommendations it makes. Ali served for 5 years in the Royal Artillery until he was granted an administrative discharge on the grounds that he was suffering from PTSD. When Ali was discharged, he certainly didn't feel ready to handle life going forward. He feels that when you're in the army, you don't have to worry about bills and everything is organised for you. You're told what to do, but when you come out, it's all down to you and your daily life has no structure or organisation. Giving veterans a heads up of what comes next would be good. Knowing what's out there, including more information about charities and support, is what's needed. That is why, over the course of the next Scottish Parliament, the Scottish Government should commission and act on an independent review of existing targeted provisions aimed at supporting the most vulnerable serving personnel and veterans, empowering them to experience a good transition. Debbie's a veteran and the spouse of a veteran. Her transferable skills developed in service have a contribute in many sectors and roles in civilian life. She ran her own cleaning business, worked in a supermarket, at the Royal Mail, and now works at the Lady Hague Poppy Factory in Edinburgh. Her skills have enabled Debbie to serve her community in a different way. This is why, over the course of the next Scottish Parliament, the Scottish Government should lead a public awareness campaign to promote the positive message that veterans and their families are assets, are highly skilled and worth investing in throughout Scottish workplaces and society. John Fuller is an RAF veteran from Kirkcaldy who's been receiving ongoing welfare benefit support from the Armed Services Advice Project, a project funded by Poppyscotland and delivered in partnership with Citizens Advice Scotland. John received help from the Veterans Welfare Service and successfully applied for his war pension. He was awarded £56.94 per week. However, he was also awarded a backdated payment of £3,000, but only received around £600 of this backdated. This was down to the current benefit rules, where all but the first £10 of a war pension are considered income, and it was applied to the entire time he was claiming employment support allowance. That is why, over the course of the next Scottish Parliament, the Scottish Government should fully exempt military compensation from financial assessments for social security benefits. This is why Poppyscotland has produced a manifesto in 2021 to outline what should be the priorities of the next Scottish Government in improving the lives of our armed forces community, an engaged armed forces community, a healthier armed forces community, a secure armed forces community, a skilled armed forces community, a thriving armed forces community, a supported armed forces community.
I hope you all enjoyed watching and listening to the video, including the experiences which our beneficiaries kindly shared with us. I'm now joined for a discussion of what we have just heard by Usman Ali, Poppyscotland's Public Affairs and Campaigns Manager, who has led the work on developing this manifesto. Welcome, Usman. So let me begin by asking you to tell us some more about the purpose of the manifesto.
Hi Mark. So Poppyscotland's 2021 manifesto has been produced to bring to life some of the current challenges being faced by members of our armed forces community, be them serving personnel, reservists, veterans or their family members. And we've developed our thinking and produced 6 recommendations for the next Scottish Government and MSPs in the next Scottish Parliament to take forward to improve the lives of our armed forces community here in Scotland.
Okay, so tell us about the process undertaken to get to the set of recommendations that are listed in the Poppyscotland manifesto.
So the process actually started 3 years ago when Poppyscotland identified public policy priorities based on our internal and external evidence base and by working with our beneficiaries and staff. The priorities were health, housing, transition, employment and social security. And following this, we conducted further research and developed policy positions, which we then used to engage with government, with local authorities and with the Scottish Veterans Commissioner, to name but a few. We were delighted that our beneficiaries and staff from across Scotland engaged in a series of focus groups and interviews to inform the development of the manifesto we are launching today.
Thanks, Usman. So moving on then, so Poppyscotland is calling for the introduction of a Veterans Patient Satisfaction Survey. Can you tell us why this is needed and how it could improve the physical and mental health of our veterans?
So very early on in our policy development, it became quite apparent that for veterans and their families, health and well-being was something that really mattered. And so whilst there's various research and data out there that tells us about the physical and mental health challenges that they're facing, there was nothing concrete as such to record their actual lived experiences. And that's why a Veterans Patient Satisfaction Survey is needed. How it could improve the experiences of veterans and patients is because the survey is designed to seek and receive tailored feedback. And of course, this can be expanded to reflect the perspective of family members too. And all of this, clinicians and policymakers can then use to inform policy and practice in the future.
Right, thank you for clearing that up. So moving into the area of transition, which overlaps the devolved and reserved context. We propose an independent review. Can you explain what we mean by this?
Sure. So transition is the process when serving personnel leave the forces and return to civilian life. And it's important to note that for most going through this process, it's relatively good. But of course, there are some who find it difficult and may require extra support. And you're right, on policy terms, it also means a transition itself, because the responsibilities that are sitting at the MOD UK level are then also transferred to the devolved home nations and regions. And so our research and experience in this area tells us that there are gaps, that the process is not quite joined up and smooth as the Armed Forces community would expect and want. And while there are lots of initiatives and support available out there, not every veteran and every family member in or going through transition knows about this support or finds it easily accessible or even finds it complete in terms of receiving holistic support. And that is why we are calling on the next Scottish Government to work with the sector and delivery partners in Scotland, as well as with counterparts at the UK level, to commission an independent review which brings together all the evidence, the lived experiences and the structures which will make a difference for our armed forces community, focusing on the most vulnerable and those who need that extra support. And we've seen, this Scottish Government commission before such reviews in other policy areas. So there's been reviews for care experience young people, reviews into health and social care, and I think that we can take that learning from those other sectors as we support our armed forces community here in Scotland.
If I may, Usman, I'll now turn to the subject of employment, which is not just a public policy priority for Poppyscotland, but a key part of our welfare offering to the armed forces community, who have so much to contribute to society, including workspaces. But it's not just as important that employers act as active ambassadors for the armed forces community, and not just to recognise them as assets to their organisation. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do need employers to become the active ambassadors, as you say, who proactively talk about and spread the message that veterans and their families are assets. They have so much to offer, and they do have a big part to play in their workplaces and wider society. And hopefully the public awareness campaign we are calling for will do just that. But also more than that, we want to bring together other key players such as government, the military and ex-service sector, and trade unions to join the employers in delivering this message. And we know that our call for a public awareness campaign delivers the action committed to in the UK Veterans Strategy and the subsequent Scottish Government Action Plan. So Poppyscotland has already worked with colleagues in Veterans Scotland and others in the sector to start collating the case studies, which will eventually inform and deliver the campaign that we're calling for. So,
with all these priorities and recommendations, what next? What do you want people watching this launch and reading our manifesto to do?
Yeah, so we're asking our supporters to read, share and talk. So please read the manifesto. Please share it with others in your network, including your local candidates standing for election, and talk to them about pledging their support for Poppyscotland's 2021 manifesto. And then after the election, share and talk about the manifesto and its recommendations with your constituency and regional MSPs that are elected to Holyrood in 2021.
Thank you, Usman. That adds some real clarity to what we're trying to achieve with the manifesto. I hope you all will read, share and talk about the Poppyscotland 2021 manifesto with all your local candidates before May's election, and then your MSP after this election. As we approach the end of our manifesto launch event, I would like to thank you for joining us and for your continued support to Poppyscotland. To play us out, I want to now introduce Sophie, a young woman who wrote the poem In Future Fields as part of Poppyscotland's Future of Remembrance competition. She has since worked with a musician, Scott Nichol, to produce the song we're about to hear. So with no further ado, over to you, Sophie.
Future fields, hope shall grow. From grace more soldiers' halos glow. That gave us freedom and memories new. The sacrifice future generations shall know. We remember the conflicts and the past, the loss that followed every gun's blast. Every name, every grave, every battle brought us peace in future fields. We pledge to share your story forever, so that such loss and heartache shall never, never again cause so many to die. We plead with God on high. We shall not be silent, we shall do you proud in future fields. We remember the conflicts and the past, the loss that followed every gun's blast. Every name, every grave, every battle brought us peace in future fields. Every name, every grave, every battle brought us peace in future fields. The poppy tells of our pride in you. The poppy tells of our pride in you. The poppy tells of our pride in you. We shall not be silent, we shall do you proud in future fields.
Sophie's poem has touched so many hearts, I think locally and nationally actually. When she won Poppyscotland's Future of Remembrance competition, we were just absolutely ecstatic. So lovely how the community got behind her so well. Her poem was in a local coffee shop, and we had lots of comments from people who'd spotted it. One gentleman who's a member of the Legion Scotland had asked if Sophie would like to put her copy of the poem in the War Memorial in Troon on Armistice Day, and she told him that she'd be honoured to do so. So her poem in Future Fields is really Sophie's tribute to all those soldiers who lost their lives for our freedom. Her inspiration came from John McCrae's poem In Flanders Fields, written in 1915. In Future Fields was Sophie's way really of giving soldiers back their voice, including that of her great-grandpa who died in the war. So Sophie's song In Future Fields is her message of hope and peace, in the hope that no more soldiers' graves shall lie in future fields.
When people my age think of combat, I think we mainly think of adults in the armed forces. But I've learned that actually in the beginning of the First World War, back in 1914, there were nowhere near enough men eligible to fight. There was a shortage of men because of this, so boys as young as 14 and 15 had to join up. Their ages were overlooked as well, because rule of thumb there was, if they were big enough and strong enough, then why not volunteer to fight for their country? One boy, George Mayer, was just 13 when he was sent to the Somme. He fought alongside a boy, just 12, who had to be letted over to see the top of the trenches. Then there's Jack Cornwall. Though barely 16, he won the Victoria Cross for bravery during the Battle of Jutland in May 1916. He was on board the HMS Chester when it was attacked by German ships. Though seriously wounded, he remained at one of the ships until the attack had ended, but later died of his wounds. So today we remember people the same age as me, who were just like you and I, who were just born at a different time when the world was unstable. What happened to the people who were in the First World War was so inhumane and so shocking that the First World War was remembered as the war to end all wars. In their final moment, they thought of the humble worries and delicate fears of loved ones, and of the hopes and dreams.
So I'd just like to say congratulations to Sophie. We are so proud of you at St Patrick's. When I heard your song just last week, it made the hairs on the ends of my arms stand on end. It is so beautiful and poetic, and I hope that you raise lots of money for Poppyscotland as you intended. You have a heart of gold, and we absolutely are so proud of you here.
Hi Sophie, Mrs McGarver here. Just want to wish you a huge congratulations on all your hard work and efforts. Who knew a small activity in class would grow to such a wonderful big thing for you? Congratulations again, and I'm sure this will be the first of many wonderful things for you in your life for the future. Bye!
Hi Sophie, a huge congratulations from us all at St Patrick's. We're immensely proud of you and we're just absolutely delighted. Go and shine, as we know you will.
Hey Sophie, hi from sunny Tenerife. Just to say congratulations on winning the Poppyscotland competition with your fabulous poem, which has in turn been made into a song. Super proud of you, well done.
Hi Sophie, Future Fields, a stunning poem and now a fabulous song. Congratulations and well done from all of us.
Hi Sophie, massive congratulations on winning the Poppyscotland competition with your fantastic poem and now song. I've always known you're a wee star and this just goes to prove it even more. Congratulations.
Hello Sophie, and congratulations on your incredible achievement from all of us at Centre Stage. We are so proud of you and we can't wait to see you again soon. Bye.